Imagine standing in the heart of Paris in the year 1850. Not the Paris of cafes and boulevards that you know today, but something far older, far darker, and far more dangerous. The streets are barely wide enough for two people to pass each other. The buildings above you lean inward, their upper floors almost touching across the narrow gap of sky. Sunlight never reaches the ground here. It hasn't for centuries. The smell hits you first. Open sewers run down the center of every street, carrying waste from the tens of thousands of people packed into these ancient tenements. The stench is overwhelming, physical, impossible to ignore. This is the Île de la Cité, the ancient heart of Paris, an island in the Seine that has been continuously inhabited for over 2,000 years. And it is dying. Cholera has swept through these streets 4 times in the last 30 years. In 1832 alone, nearly 20,000 Parisians died in a single epidemic. The narrow streets act as perfect incubators for disease, trapping filth, blocking airflow, concentrating misery. Paris in 1850 is a city of almost 1 million people, but its street plan has barely changed since the Middle Ages. The city is choking on itself, strangled by its own medieval skeleton, and yet it is also the capital of the most powerful nation in continental Europe, the cultural center of the Western world, the city that every educated person dreams of visiting. This contradiction between Paris's grandeur and its squalor is what will drive the most ambitious urban transformation the world has ever seen. The man who will change everything is not yet in power. He is waiting, and so is the emperor who will unleash him. Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, nephew of the great Napoleon, has just seized power in a coup d'etat in December 1851, declaring himself Emperor Napoleon III of France. He is ambitious, impatient, and obsessed with one idea above all others: making Paris the greatest city on earth. Napoleon III has spent years in exile in London, and he has been deeply impressed by what he saw there: wide streets, public parks, modern infrastructure. He returns to Paris with a vision burning in his mind. He wants that, but bigger, but grander, but French. He has sketched his ideas on maps of Paris himself, drawing bold lines across the old city, lines representing the wide boulevards he intends to cut through the medieval fabric. Now, he needs someone to make those lines real. In June 1853, Napoleon III appoints Georges-Eugène Haussmann as prefect of the Seine, effectively the administrator of Paris. It is a decision that will change the face of Europe forever. But behind the glittering facade, the finances of Haussmann's project are becoming increasingly precarious. The cost of the transformation is staggering, ultimately amounting to the equivalent of billions of euros in modern terms. Haussmann has financed much of it through complex borrowing schemes that keep the true cost off the city's official books. In 1869, a politician named Jules Ferry publishes a devastating pamphlet titled The Fantastic Accounts of Haussmann, exposing the financial manipulation and demanding accountability. The political pressure mounts. Napoleon III, his health failing and his regime increasingly unpopular, finally dismisses Haussmann in January 1870. It is the end of an era. 9 months later, France will be at war with Prussia. Napoleon III will be captured at the Battle of Sedan. The Second Empire will collapse. Paris will be besieged, bombarded, and then consumed by the fires of the Commune. But the city that emerges from all that chaos and destruction is still, unmistakably, Haussmann's Paris. The boulevards survive. The limestone facades survive. The sewer system survives. The parks survive. Of the 12,000 buildings Haussmann demolished, almost nothing remains. But of the buildings he created, the vast majority still stand today, still housing Parisians, still lining the boulevards, still gleaming in that particular golden light that seems unique to Paris. Walk down the Boulevard Haussmann today. Yes, it was named after him eventually, though not until long after his death, and you are walking through one of the most complete surviving examples of 19th century urban planning anywhere on Earth. Every balcony at the same height, every roofline aligned, every facade speaking the same architectural language. A city that was designed to be experienced at the speed of a horse-drawn carriage, with long, straight vistas and carefully composed perspectives at every intersection. It is, by any measure, one of the greatest achievements in the history of human civilization, and it was accomplished in less than 17 years by one man working for one emperor in one city that happened to be the center of the world. Haussmann died in 1891, long outliving the empire he had served. He spent his final decades writing his memoirs, 3 dense volumes of self-justification and barely concealed pride. He never apologized for the demolitions. He never expressed regret for the displacement. He believed, with the absolute conviction of a man who has moved mountains, that what he built was worth what he destroyed. And standing on a Paris boulevard today, watching the light fall on those pale stone facades, watching the city breathe and move and live, it is very hard to argue with him. Paris was not always like this. It was made deliberately, violently, brilliantly, by human hands and human will in an astonishing burst of creative destruction that lasted less than 2 decades. And the man who made it was not an artist, not an architect, not a visionary poet of the city. He was an administrator, a bureaucrat, a prefect, a man who looked at a map, drew some lines, and then made absolutely certain that those lines became real. That is the story of Baron Haussmann. That is the story of how Paris became Paris. And that, perhaps, is the most remarkable story in the history of any city on earth. Smaller parks, the squares, are created throughout the residential neighborhoods. Haussmann mandates that no Parisian should have to walk more than 10 minutes to reach a green space. In a city that previously had almost no public parks at all, this is a revolutionary act. The social consequences of all this transformation are profound and deeply contested. The poor who lived in the demolished neighborhoods are not rehoused in the new buildings. They cannot afford to be. The new Haussmann apartments, with their gleaming stone facades and modern plumbing, command rents far beyond the reach of working-class Parisians. The displaced poor are pushed outward to the peripheral neighborhoods beyond the old city walls, to what will become the working-class suburbs of eastern Paris. The social geography of the city is being redrawn as surely as its physical geography. Critics of Haussmann, and there are many, argue that this is not an accident. They claim that the wide boulevards serve a military as much as a sanitary purpose. In 1848, just 5 years before Haussmann's appointment, Parisian workers had built barricades across the narrow medieval streets and fought the army to a standstill. Wide, straight boulevards cannot be barricaded so easily. Artillery can be moved down them. Troops can march in formation. The new Paris, these critics argue, is designed not just to be beautiful, but to be controlled. Haussmann himself never quite confirms or denies this interpretation. He speaks only of hygiene, of circulation, of the free movement of air and people and commerce. But the military utility of his boulevards is undeniable, and Napoleon III, who came to power through a coup, is certainly aware of it. By the mid-1860s, the transformation of Paris is visible to the entire world. Visitors arrive from across Europe and America to marvel at what has been achieved. The 1867 Universal Exposition brings millions of visitors to Paris, and they find a city that seems to have been conjured from a dream, luminous, ordered, magnificent. The Champs-Élysées stretches from the Place de la Concorde to the Arc de Triomphe, lined with cafes and theaters and the carriages of the fashionable world. The grand magasins, the great department stores, are opening their doors, their vast glass and iron interiors, a new kind of public space, the cathedrals of the consumer age. The painter Claude Monet captures the new boulevards in shimmering light. The writer Émile Zola chronicles the lives of those who inhabit the new city and those who were pushed out of it. Paris becomes the subject of its own mythology, a city so beautiful that it invents an entirely new way of being modern. And yet, the plan is working. As the old streets come down, the new boulevards begin to open up. The Boulevard de Sébastopol cuts a straight line through the densest part of the right bank. The Boulevard Saint-Michel does the same on the left bank. Together, they form a great cross through the heart of Paris, allowing air and light to flood into places that have been dark for centuries. The engineering challenges are immense. Paris sits on a foundation of ancient limestone quarries, the catacombs, and building beneath the city requires constant vigilance against collapse. Haussmann's chief engineer, Eugène Belgrand, is tasked with solving the most pressing underground problem: the sewers. The medieval sewer system of Paris is a catastrophe. It consists of a handful of open channels that empty directly into the Seine, the same river from which Parisians draw their drinking water. The connection between this fact and the cholera epidemics is only just beginning to be understood. Belgrand designs an entirely new underground city, a network of sewers wide enough to walk through, with separate channels for wastewater and fresh water, with maintenance walkways and iron pipes running along the walls. By the time Haussmann's work is complete, Paris will have over 500 kilometers of new sewer tunnels beneath its streets. The sewers become so impressive that they are open to the public as a tourist attraction. Visitors ride small boats through the illuminated tunnels, marveling at the engineering. It is a peculiarly Parisian form of civic pride. Above ground, the transformation is equally radical. Haussmann creates entirely new neighborhoods from scratch. The area around the Opera Garnier, which is under construction throughout the 1860s, is redesigned to showcase the new building, with wide avenues radiating outward like the spokes of a wheel. The Place de l'Étoile, the great roundabout at the top of the Champs-Élysées, is redesigned with 12 avenues radiating from the Arc de Triomphe. Standing at the center, you can look down any one of 12 perfectly straight roads, each one stretching to a different corner of the city. It is an act of urban theater on a colossal scale. Parks and green spaces are created throughout the city. The Bois de Boulogne, on the western edge of Paris, previously a royal hunting forest, is transformed into a public park of over 800 hectares, with artificial lakes, winding paths, and pleasure gardens open to all Parisians. The Bois de Vincennes on the eastern side receives the same treatment. Two great green lungs, one on each side of the city, allowing the working classes who cannot afford to leave Paris for the countryside to experience nature within the city itself. Haussmann is 54 years old, trained as a lawyer, with a career spent in provincial administration. He has never built a city. He has never designed a building, but he possesses something rarer and more powerful than technical expertise: an absolute, terrifying will to get things done. From the moment Haussmann takes office, he operates with a speed and ruthlessness that shocks even his supporters. He assembles a team of engineers, architects, and surveyors. He commissions detailed maps of every street, every building, every underground watercourse in Paris. And then he begins to cut. The first great project is the completion of the Rue de Rivoli, a long, straight street running east from the Tuileries Palace along the northern edge of the city center. But this is just the beginning, a warm-up exercise for what is to come. The real transformation begins in the heart of the city. Haussmann's workers descend on the Ile de la Cité with pickaxes and crowbars. Entire neighborhoods that have existed for 500 years are demolished in weeks. The statistics are staggering. On the Ile de la Cité alone, 25,000 people are displaced. 12,000 buildings across Paris are demolished over the course of Haussmann's tenure, and in their place, something entirely new begins to rise. The new buildings of Haussmann's Paris follow strict rules. Every facade must be built from the same cream-colored limestone quarried from the hills south of Paris. Every roofline must sit at the same height, no higher than the width of the street below. Every building must have wrought iron balconies at the same floors. The result is something unprecedented in urban history, a city that looks like it was designed by a single hand. Walking down a Haussmann boulevard, you experience a visual harmony that feels almost musical. The buildings breathe together, they rhyme. But creating this harmony requires an act of violence against the old city that many Parisians find deeply traumatic. Victor Hugo, the great novelist, watches the demolitions with horror. He has set his masterpiece Notre Dame de Paris in these very streets, these very alleyways now being torn apart. He calls Haussmann's work vandalism with a plan.